In this video, I'm going to be talking about or giving some ideas for pre-made field fortifications. As in pre-made, I mean pre-conflict. This basically came up kind of as a request from one of the subscribers. I think his YouTube name is Sniperism X. I don't know for certain. I don't have my computer open to the internet right now to check it out. But he said he's considering in his area building some field fortifications in his anticipated AO, his anticipated area of operations. And he was wondering how feasible that is. And my response to him is that militaries have been doing that for years, possibly centuries. For more modern examples for right now, in the Republic of Korea, a location I spent quite a bit of time, north of the Han River, which is the major river that runs through Seoul, the capital. Between the Han River and the DMZ, it's just one giant field fortification. Every hill is covered in trenches and bunkers and fighting positions. And then between the hills, you have field obstacles that are ready to be emplaced. You know, you'll pass between two hills. You'll have rock drops on the sides of the hill just waiting to go. You get out on the roads between the rice paddies. On the roadways, you'll have concertina wire sitting right on the side of the road for pulling across to block off that roadway, and lots of other little ingenious stuff. I might do a video on that later today. But what I'm going to cover in this video would be the pre-made field fortifications. Now, something that I heard about on Liberty Tree Radio within the last year or so here was something that the Michigan militia does, and I'm guessing some of the other militias that kind of coordinate with them or that they train alongside from other states do. They do put in pre-made field fortifications in their area. One of the things that they do is when they build bunkers for the roofs, they use hot tub shells, the actual tub part. Because when people change out, they put in a new hot tub, well, they have to get rid of the shells, so then they usually just get put out on the side of the road for free or posted on Craigslist or whatever. So what they do, they go around, they collect up those shells, and they use them as bunker roofs. So how you're going to do it, you dig your hole, you'll line the inside of the hole with thick logs to give you support. You'll put the shell over the top upside down. So this would be the bottom of the shell, this would be the top of it. And then you would pour concrete over the top of that, if you want to go that route. You could just go with stacking a whole bunch of sandbags, rocks, and dirt. But if you have the time and the capabilities, you know, concrete would be a good idea. And when you're putting in the concrete, it doesn't have to be smooth, perfect, and all that stuff. It ain't going to matter because you're going to cover it up with, you know, at least a good foot of earth and rock over the top of that too, and then camouflage it. But when you're putting in the concrete, you know, put in some metal rebar. You don't have to make it perfect, you know, line of rebar all the way around. You could use some old garden fencing, maybe some cheap chicken wire and stuff, just string it through there and then run a few bars of rebar through to kind of hold everything together in that. Hold it up off the shell with maybe a couple rocks in a few different places where you can do it, and then you pour the concrete over that, and the fencing, chicken wire, and the rebar will help hold the concrete together better. Now, before you would pour the concrete, you would want to cut a hole in the shell for your firing port. That would be where you would put your weapons barrel through, your rifle, or my crude drawing here, a machine gun. Now, if you go this route, I have a double line of logs here in the front because you're going to need to have, especially if you're going to potentially put machine guns in there, you're going to have some type of table to put bipod legs down, or potentially tripod legs. So you could do a double line of logs in the front part, or at least where the firing port is. And that inside wall would be where the bipod would go on so that you could fire through. Now I'll mention this on the firing ports. This would be more for flat trajectory. You're firing straight out across the top of the land. If you're putting this on the side of a hill and you're going to be firing downhill, you're going to want to put your firing port maybe a little bit lower, and then the shell itself will just be the roof. And then below the shell would be where your firing port is, and you're going to have to make sure you have enough clearance that you can angle the weapon downward in order to fire it at your enemies. Now, when you would do a bunker like this, remember you're going to have some type of doorway on the side or in the back. I wouldn't necessarily put it on the roof, because then that potentially puts you in the line of incoming fire. You want a doorway so that you'll be able to get in to occupy the bunker, and if it looks like the enemy's going to overrun the position, you'll be able to escape out it quick to get out of that bunker before they get up there. Now, where would you put something like this? Something like this, I personally would put it at a strategic point, say a crossroads or overlooking a major roadway. Now, in my unit's area of operations, we got a couple good-sized highways that travel through it that would be potential MSRs, military supply routes or main supply routes. Those are regularly patrolled by state police or state troopers, state patrol, whatever you call them in your states. So that would be a location where something like this would probably be called for. But if you're going to build it, you're probably going to draw attention. So you do have to be pretty clandestine when you're doing this type of thing. So take that into consideration. But I would put it over a space where you could pour a decent amount of fire down on a strategic route that you would be wanting to interdict traffic on. Another potential location would be overlooking landing sites for aircraft, helicopters, and fixed wings. Now, the next type that I have seen quite a bit, especially in Korea. Like I said, on the sides of the hills, there's trenches and stuff all over the place. Well, you would dig your trench, you would revet the sides in order to keep them from collapsing in. And then until you would use it, you would cover it with wood or pieces of tin, whatever. You're going to cover the trench, and then over the top of that you'll put some dirt, you'll put some leaves, you'll put some grass and that stuff, concealing that, hey, there's a trench hidden underneath. When your unit would occupy it, you would come in, you would lift off that covering and get rid of it, and you got your trench all ready to go. This I've seen quite a bit on hillsides that did not have this level of fortifications. You would have V-shaped hasties and other types of hasty fighting positions dug on the hillside. Well, they would leave those positions in there, but to help conceal them, they would fill them back in with like leaves and sticks. So when the unit would come in to occupy it, all they would have to do is dig out those leaves and all that stuff, maybe toss it forward to add to your camouflage and that stuff, and your fighting position is already there ready to go. So your two-man foxholes, if you would have some of those set up, I would do the same thing as this, as the trench lines. Put a piece of wood or tin over the top and then cover that with some type of camouflaging material, a bit of dirt and some grass clippings, grass, leaves, whatever. A big thing with the pre-made fortifications, make sure to camouflage the hell out of them, because you're not going to be occupying them non-stop. Okay, you're not going to build them and then someone's going to be in there every day, all day long, until a war happens, which could be, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or next week for all I know. You're going to want to camouflage them good. With a bunker like this, the firing port in front, it's not uncommon that they would put a piece of board or a small log across the front of here, and then they would toss dirt in front of that to camouflage the firing port. The door on the side would get covered with tree branches and that stuff, and then leaves and all that would get tossed in over the top of that to help conceal it. The actual bunker itself would be concealed underneath dirt and grass, sod blocks, so on and so forth. So make sure any pre-made field fortifications, you camouflage them well, but not so well that you're not going to be able to find them later. If you do make pre-made field fortifications, check on them, say, once a year. Pick a good time of the year when very few people are going to be moving through the area, so probably don't do it during a hunting season. Go out during one of your training weekends and check those fighting positions, see what the conditions is, especially of any pre-made bunkers or trenches. You're not necessarily going to uncover the entire trench. You'll uncover one point on the trench, and then you'll crawl through those trenches with a flashlight, checking everything out, making sure stuff hasn't collapsed in. And you'll also want to check the top, also make sure that the camouflage is not being blown away or uncovered, your lid hasn't fallen in somewhere, that stuff. Make sure that any hasties like this, well, they haven't been filled in by, say, mudslides from your rainfall during the springs. All pre-made fighting positions really should be known by the people that built that particular one and the leadership. So your platoon leadership and your company leadership, you don't want every member inside the unit knowing the location of every field fortification. Really, the ones that would be anticipated to occupy it, to fight from it, they should be the ones to build it so that they know its location. The reason for that, obviously, is spies and infiltrators. The campaign is still going on. Yes, we have a Patriot in the White House and that stuff, but we still have the deep state is still in control of the Department of Justice, the Department of Defense, Homeland Security, and all that. And there's still people, out there looking to find ways to prove that we're the biggest terrorist threat to this country and not the Islamofascists or communists. So keep that in mind. Do some research on this stuff, look in history, check into things on the Maginot Line, the Siegfried Line, look into the defenses that were done in West Germany during the Cold War, defenses that are online from Korea nowadays, the current defenses that they have all over the country. Get you some ideas and then think strategically. Don't just put in defenses for the hell of it. That's kind of what happened in Albania and Yugoslavia. They just put bunkers all over in those countries. That was a thing they did back during the Cold War. The dictators in charge of those countries were extremely paranoid. I read stories in Soldier of Fortune where villages in the middle of the mountains, there's absolutely nothing strategic up there. You would have a couple trucks show up with pre-made concrete bunkers on back, and the village was expected to employ 6 or 10 bunkers around the town to protect it. Well, there wasn't that many people in the town to be able to do the work. It wasn't strategic in any way, shape, or form, or whatever. So don't go overboard. Just put in the ones that you anticipate you're going to need. You'll want to defend, when you're putting these in, plan for defending base camps or potential base camps. You're going to want to put it in overlooking strategic lines of communication, supply routes, overlooking airfields and potential landing sites for helicopters. I would say you could consider in there law enforcement and military installations also, but if you put any field fortifications around that, you are going to draw attention and you will get arrested. Just give you a warning on that one right now. So I probably wouldn't put any in around that. That would be something where you would put in your fortifications after the conflict would begin, not beforehand. And then remember your OPSEC. Control who has the information on where the stuff's going to be, what you're doing, and so forth. Now for all my engineer brothers in the Patriot militia movements, always remember, essayons.